Have you noticed that your teenager isn't the same anymore? They spend more time in their room. They don't laugh with you the way they used to. Conversations that once lasted for hours now end with just one word. Sometimes it feels like they're becoming a completely different person. They smile less. They avoid eye contact. Even when the whole family is together, they seem a million miles away. And if you're a parent, you've probably asked yourself, what happened to my child? Was it the smartphone? Was it social media? Was it the friends they started spending time with? Or did I do something wrong as a parent? What if the smartphone isn't the real problem? What if your teenager isn't trying to push you away, but is quietly going through one of the biggest changes of their entire life? Today we are going to discover what's really happening inside your teenager's mind. Before we understand why your teenager is changing, there's something every parent needs to know. Not every change is a bad sign. Some changes are a completely normal part of growing up. Others, maybe your teenager's quiet way of asking for help. The difficult part is knowing the difference. Because if we mistake a normal change for rebellion, we may create distance where there never needed to be any. And if we ignore a real warning sign, we may miss the moment our child needs us most. Let's begin with the normal signs. One of the first things you'll notice is that your teenager wants more privacy. They spend more time in their room. They don't tell you every little detail about their day anymore. They close their bedroom door. As painful as that feels, this is often a natural part of becoming independent. Another normal sign is that friends suddenly become much more important. Your teenager wants to fit in. They want to be accepted. They begin discovering who they are outside the family. That doesn't mean they've stopped loving you. It means they're growing. But now let's talk about the warning signs. If your teenager suddenly withdraws from everyone, not just family, but also friends, if they lose interest in the hobbies they once loved, if they seem sad, hopeless, or angry for weeks at a time, if they stop caring about school, or begin spending time with people who constantly lead them into trouble, those are signs you shouldn't ignore. Because sometimes, what looks like teenage attitude is actually a young person silently struggling. Remember this. Growing up changes your teenager, but they should never have to go through those changes alone. And the greatest gift you can give them isn't having all the answers. It's making sure they always know. They can come to you when life becomes too heavy. By now you might be wondering what happens if I ignore these changes. The truth is emotional. Distance rarely happens overnight. It starts with small moments that seem harmless until one day you realize your child no longer comes to you first. Most teenagers don't wake up one morning and decide to become distant. It happens little by little. One missed conversation, one misunderstanding, one moment of. Over time, the child who once told you everything slowly begins to keep it all inside. At first, it's just shorter conversations. A few one-word answers, an awkward silence at the dinner table. But when those moments happen again and again, silence slowly becomes the new normal, and the distance between parent and child begins to grow. When a teenager feels misunderstood, they often stop trying to explain themselves. The silence isn't because they have nothing to say, it's because they no longer believe anyone will truly understand. And that's a heavy burden for a young heart to carry. Weighing on them, they carry it alone. A teenager who feels lonely or misunderstood can become more vulnerable to peer pressure simply because everyone wants to feel like they belong. And then there's social media. It can make a teenager feel connected to the whole world while quietly leaving them feeling more alone than ever. Every scroll becomes a comparison. They see perfect smiles, perfect lives, and perfect success. They're only seeing the highlights. Slowly, they begin to wonder why their own life doesn't seem good enough. Without realizing, that's how confidence quietly begins to disappear. Not all at once, but little by little. They start doubting themselves, questioning their worth, and believing they'll never be enough, even when that's far from the truth. The greatest risk isn't the silence itself, it's losing the connection between parent and child. But as long as love remains, that bond can still be rebuilt. One honest conversation. One listening ear and one small step at a time. That's why understanding these changes may be one of the most important things you ever do for your child. Because when a teenager feels truly heard, understood, and loved, trust begins to grow again, and that relationship can become stronger than ever. So where do we go from here? The good news is this: your teenager doesn't need a perfect parent. They need a parent who refuses to give up on them. One of the biggest mistakes we make is trying to solve every problem the moment our teenager starts talking. We interrupt. We give advice. We explain what they should have done. But sometimes, your teenager isn't looking for answers. They're simply looking for someone who will listen. So the next time they open up, resist the urge to fix everything. Instead, listen with your heart. Let them finish. Let them feel heard. Because when a teenager feels understood, they become much more willing to trust you. Another way to rebuild your connection is to make time for them. Not just when they're in trouble. Not just to ask about homework. But simply to be together. Go for a walk. Cook a meal together. Watch their favorite movie. Sit beside them. Even if they don't say much. Sometimes, your presence speaks louder than your words. And remember, teenagers still need boundaries. They may complain about the rules. They may roll their eyes. They may even tell you that you're being unfair. But deep down, loving boundaries make them feel safe. The key is to set those boundaries with calmness. Not anger. With patience. Not fear. Finally, never underestimate the power of small moments. A simple, "How was your day?" A genuine, "I'm proud of you." Or even, "I'm here whenever you're ready to talk." Those words may seem small today, but they can become the reason your teenager chooses to come to you tomorrow. Because rebuilding a relationship doesn't happen in one big conversation. It happens one moment, one hug, one act of love at a time. Your teenager may not always show it. They may not always say thank you, but never stop reminding them, through your words and through your action, that no matter how much they grow, they'll always have a safe place to come home to. I also made one small change. They're looking for someone who will simply listen. Instead of, they're looking for someone who will simply listen. Actually, an even more emotional version is, they're looking for someone who makes them feel heard. I want you to remember one thing. Your teenager isn't becoming someone else. They are becoming themselves. Right now, they may seem distant. They may spend more time behind a closed bedroom door. They may not say much. They may even push you away. But that doesn't always mean they've stopped needing you. Sometimes, the child who says, "Leave me alone," is secretly hoping you'll never stop caring. The teenage years don't last forever. One day, that bedroom door will open. One day, they'll remember who stayed patient, who kept listening, who never gave up on them. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You just have to keep showing up. With love, with patience, and with understanding. Because the relationship you build today will become the foundation they carry into adulthood. If this video helped you understand your teenager a little better, subscribe to NJ Parenting. Every week we'll share practical wisdom to help you build stronger relationships with your children. One conversation, one lesson, and one step at a time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.